Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. It's showtime once again, Saturday morning, 9 a.m. I'm joined by Advaita Kala and Lieutenant General PR Shankar. We're going to be talking about the high-speed geopolitics of the last couple of days. General Shankar, welcome to our collaboration. Advaita, welcome.
Oh, thanks a lot. A week is too long in geopolitics from last time to this. Lot has changed, and I'm looking
Absolutely.
forward to this.
It is, Jan Shankar, I was a couple of episodes back, I spoke about how geopolitics today, it's moved on from being a test match to a T20 match. And today, I think it's not even a T20, it's just T10 or T5 or something, because there is something happening across time zones every single day. And, that's what I want you to make sense of. I want Advaita to make sense of what we are seeing in the last couple of hours. And I'll tell you what we've just seen just in the last few hours. We saw Trump in the United Kingdom, a state visit, a huge military parade and display of the kind that we've never seen before, at least in the UK. The Brits are very muted in their public displays of affection, but this one was really big. They need Trump for a variety of reasons, a trade deal, etc. But they also need him for nuclear weapons. And this is the interesting part for all of you watching over there. The United Kingdom, the UK, our former colonizers don't have nuclear weapons of their own. They depend on the good old United States of America for bombs, nuclear bombs, and nuclear missiles. So the UK is planning to go in for a new series of weapons, thermonuclear weapons, aircraft dropped weapons. They're buying F-35s, which are, as you all know, is made by Lockheed Martin, and they're buying the bombs that will be fitted with them. That the British Prime Minister announced that a few months back. So he needs more American nuclear weapons. And of course, we saw before that the nuclear posturing in Europe, where there were talks of taking out nuclear weapons, Russia, issuing nuclear threats. But more recently, and this is actually the subject of what we're going to be talking about because it concerns us directly, is Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, Field Marshal Asim Munir landing up in Saudi Arabia just 2 days back. They've announced a very, very significant strategic collaboration with Saudi Arabia, a mutual defense pact, a NATO-like arrangement where they have said that an attack on one would be considered an attack on the other. And that, of course, is a follow-up of what happened with Qatar. When Qatar was attacked just last week by the Israel Air Force, Qatar is, of course, a key US ally. The US stood by and watched as Qatar was bombed by the Israelis. Obviously, that must have sparked paranoia. And not so long ago, just about 3 months back, 3 months is a long time in geopolitics today in 2025. We saw Iran's nuclear facilities being knocked out by the US, Midnight Hammer, Operation Midnight Hammer. So, I want to start by asking you this, General Shankar. Nuclear weapons used to be this political kind of weapon, rarely talked about. Once occasionally you will see some boring scientists mention it or something like that. It will come up, a missile will come up on a parade. But today, literally every element of geopolitical discussion has a nuclear angle to it. Wherever you go, is this a sign of the times we are living in? There is fear, there's paranoia, and therefore everyone is reaching for the ultimate weapon.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Morning, Advaita. Morning, Sandeep, for today's discussion. I think it's a very important discussion. We're going to have uh, the nuclear umbrellas all over the world have opened up. I don't know whether they'll stop the rain or not. Virtually, these look like, a cat amongst pigeons. But I'll put it the other way around. Is this a new pigeon amongst a lot of cats? Right? So we have to view it, you know, the fact that the world is undergoing a great change, a change which is not seen in ever since the Second World War.
Right.
The
80
world order
years.
is changing. 80 years. It's a change. And then this change, a lot of things are happening. Technology has taken off in many directions. It has brought the world closer. Events which would normally crystallize over a month now happen over 48 hours and things like that. And well, as a result, everyone is feeling insecure. Insecurity is all pervading. Economies are changing. People are changing. Maybe 4 5 years back, whoever thought that China will face an internal challenge with its people? It is facing. It's a different variety. USA is facing its internal issues. So is the continent, and I mean, there's no place which has escaped this internal churn. So is it with us in its own form. So, like you said, there's a lot of global paranoia about all this whole story. And hence, people are taking recourse to the fact that, whatever they have, and nuclear technology has back into the table. If people have taken recourse to nuclear options, and as is evidence in this latest deal between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, we must understand things are really bad.
Hmm.
We all understood that Pakistan, nuclear weapons were a political weapon for political.
Yeah.
But now it's there. It's another important thing of this nuclear story, which we probably missed out in saying, is you saw this parade
Xi
where
Jinping's
all the Xi
Jerusalem parade.
Jinping's parade, where he
Yes.
displayed his complete nuclear arsenal.
First time his
The
pride was displayed.
first,
Yes, I did
yeah,
that.
the complete pride, everything was put up, and it has its own dimensions. But
Right.
well, that's how it is. And it's not only this, the proliferation of missiles, the way people are developing intercontinental missiles, and space technology has gone off in another direction. So we're living in a new a, world which is changing very fast. Yeah, and I think we'll talk of this a little more. Back to you.
Right, right. Advaita, we're living in a new nuclear age. Did you ever think there would be a time when he would actually come back to it? The 30 years post the Cold War, we saw, a couple of countries testing weapons, but, they were primarily kept in the closet. But today, as General Shankar said, nuclear weapons are political weapons and they're being freely talked about, freely brandished. What were your thoughts when you saw Shahbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Munir in Saudi Arabia? Was that a bit of a surprise to you?
I thought cute. That's what I thought. But, on a serious note, the thing is that this is what we mean by a multipolar world, right? This is how it's going to take shape. The UN has proved to be entirely unhelpful. I was going to say useless, but pretty much unhelpful. So, the League of Nations, which then went on to become the United Nations, etc., and did its many avatars, has completely, over the years, diluted its own legitimacy as well as relevance. On top of that, you have a United States, which is also on a decline in terms of its prominence in the world today. So we are heading towards a multipolar world. And countries are realizing that now, if you've been a great American ally, like the Saudis and the Pakistanis have been through the years, through the decades, you can't really look up to Uncle Sam every time you're in a spot of trouble. And I think what happened in Qatar, in Doha, would have been a real wake-up call for them, because if tomorrow Iran wanted to lob something at the Saudis, because remember, Iran and Saudi Arabia are not friends at all. In fact, they view each other as an existential threat. So it's really that bad. We don't think about it too much. But really, for Saudi, I think seeing that Doha situation must have made them realize that, look, if the Americans didn't get involved with Israel and Iran and were kind of on the back foot and were saying, oh, we'll do something, it was mostly talk, then we need to figure out our own defense strategies, which are relevant to our particular situation, and especially with an Iran which is very restive right now. Iran is deeply wounded and bruised. It's lost its top lieutenants. It's feeling isolated. It's feeling targeted. So it's very likely, that Iran will try something or is not is prone to reacting very aggressively at the slightest provocation.
Right. Absolutely. No,
Viewing
no.
that, I think Saudi Arabia, yeah, it needed to have this sort of nuclear umbrella in the case it got into any kind of skirmish with Iran. And I think we have to view it through that lens. I know it's natural when Pakistan comes into the equation, we think about Pakistan and what that has to do with us. And there's an aspect of that as well, which we can get through to later. But I think primarily the Iran question and the US not really jumping in quite the way it promises to jump in for its so-called allies.
Right, absolutely. Very important points there, Advaita. The fact that, the US unpredictability and its unreliability, rather, as a ally has forced many countries to chart their own course. And that is where countries like Pakistan with their rental nukes come in. And Gen Shankar, you've also been part of our strategic program. Was it a bit of a surprise to you when Asim Munir and Shahbaz Sharif landed up in Riyadh and they struck that very significant defense agreement? Are we looking at a regional NATO, as they're talking of the Islamic countries, which are threatened by both Iran and by Israel?
Well, look, let me put it this way. The announcement was a surprise, but what is coming out later, indicates that the people are generally in confusion. I'll first start with Pakistan. Pakistan came out and said we're going to be the security guarantor
Right,
of the
right.
Middle East, and we are the peace quotient in the Middle East and all that and all. Today they've backtracked. They have now said no, it doesn't include a nuclear component.
Okay.
See, they already that Khwaja Asif has backtracked. There's nothing nuclear about this.
Right.
Look, this fundamental thing we have to understand, which I think many people are missing. I don't see it in discussion. Fundamentally, this caters to Saudi insecurity.
Right.
Why does Saudi insecurity come in? Because the House of Saud has always been an insecure agency, right? If they have to continue with their royal ways, they need security. So far, USA was guaranteeing them that security.
Right.
If USA did stand up to Qatar, they won't tomorrow stand up to anyone else also. So the Saudis or anyone. And it also has a domino effect on UAE. We have not come to that. That's the next thing. So they're worried. Plus the fact that Saudis have been at war with Yemen over a decade now. And they've put everything they have against the Houthis and the Yemenis. Nothing has happened. They've only been getting hit. I mean, don't forget, 2019, Aramco, two oil distilleries or refineries at Burbeck and Quraysh got hit. Right? Yemen. So, their threats are, and plus, Saudi has internal threats. After all, where did Osama bin Laden come from? He came from Saudi. He's a Saudi businessman. His family is right? And they chose the threat.
Bin Laden.
Why was he thrown out? He was thrown out of Saudi Arabia because he was a threat to the royal family. Right. So, if you look at the Saudi threats, they have a new nuclear threat from Israel, or perceived threat. Whether it's nuclear or not nuclear, there's a threat from Israel which has emerged. They have a problem from Yemen. They have an internal problem. Where do they go to? USA has not given them anything, or they're worried about the USA, and they also want to get out of the US grip. So, can they come to China? They can't go to China direct. They can't come to India. So they have to go to Pakistan. And Pakistan is not only rent and nuke, it is also, this is a paid service by the Saudis. After all, this great Islamic bond was funded. AQ network earlier was funded by the Saudis at some point of time. Right. So they have priority rights over the Pakistani nukes and Pakistani. And don't forget, this chap Rahil Sharif, who was the chief, has been head of that multinational force which is guarding the Saudi royal palace for the past 8 years.
Right.
So there's an arrangement with Pakistanis which are going on for long. And now they're formalizing it. Right. And then there's, of course, the issue. This formalization is not only for nukes, it's also for conventional. The conventional threat. The question is whether Pakistanis will do it or not. That's a different story.
That is going to be my question to Advaita. Will the Pakistanis do it or not? And Advaita, I think we kind of miss the fact that how significant Field Marshal Asim Munir has been. I mean, when he took over as army chief, because I believe that you just have to spot the God complex in all of these Pakistani military chiefs. If you spot a God complex, even if you spot that one particle in their minds, which leads them to believe that they are God's answers to all of Pakistan's problems, then we have a problem, right? We've had that with Zia, with Musharraf, with Ayub, with Yahya, all of these things. Do you think we missed this out in Asim Munir? The fact that he is actually the one who's moving all these things. And I'll give you a small example of this. As General Shankar was saying, everyone knew that Pakistan had this great relationship with the Saudis, right? The Saudis funded the bomb. The Pakistanis had a contingent, something like 3,000 strong in Saudi Arabia, a brigade size for the longest time. But then in the time of General Bajwa, when the Saudis were going to invade Yemen, they asked for Pakistanis to join. And Bajwa said, no, it's not our fight. Why the hell should we get into it? And that kind of sparked this very bitter acrimony between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. Bajwa staying out. So in a sense, Munir has kind of brought Pakistan back into the equation. He's taken Shahbaz with him and, done this. I don't know if Bajwa would have done the same thing. He would have, shown up in Saudi Arabia with his prime minister in tow. But I seriously doubt that. But Munir, definitely. You think we missed out on the fact that Munir would be as significant a threat as he is today to India and our interests?
No, because I think there are a lot of other things that are coming into play, like the multipolar world, so I don't think we can necessarily guide how forces are going to come together in this kind of a scenario. I think what Munir has done basically has said Pakistan is open for business, right? You show us the money and we'll give you whatever you need. And that message has gone effectively to the world. The world has also dealt with Pakistani generals now for a couple of decades. So they realize that if you have your kind of guy sitting there, then just make sure he stays alive. That's about it. So basically, this is also kind of protection for Munir also to stick around longer and to keep his own space secure. Because remember, this is a violent country. They've had coups, they've had counter coups, they've had people taken out. So Munir has to also ensure that he is useful to the bigger players in the world for him to remain where he is. So I think it's a combination of those kind of factors which are driving this. I think for us in particular, we've seen Pakistan come and go. I think the biggest threat to the House of Saud is really terrorists more than anyone else. Even I would say even more than Iran. Their own radicalized people have been most effective in permeating this sort of House of Saud has this impervious presence in the kingdom. I think their biggest threat, and they recognize it, is their own people who have been radicalized. And remember, who hosts most of these people with very open arms and with all the facilities and the lifestyle perks in the world is we know who, right? So I think the Saudis have had to do this deal, and I don't really necessarily think anyone in the world trusts the Pakistanis. What they know is as long as the money is coming in, you're going to get what you want. The moment the money stops, you're not going to get what you want. So this is very transactional. It's not some great bonding of Sunni nations coming together, etc., etc. No, it's not that. It's basically something that Saudi needs at this point of time with the unpredictability around Iran. And it's something that Pakistan is ready to cash in on. And that's what
Right. Absolutely. No.
More of these alliances, we certainly will see more of these alliances. We should be ready. Tomorrow we'll hear of 2 other countries embracing.
Right. Bangladesh, God forbid, if Bangladesh joins this.
Bangladesh is out of the equation in this.
No, but Advaita, that point that one line you gave, and I think that sets the tone for what we're seeing in geopolitics today. The fact that Pakistan is open to business, and it's like a match made in heaven. You have the real estate guy on the other side of the planet who's also open to business, and you have someone over here, and voila, match made in heaven. But very quickly, when we're talking about the unpredictability of the region, Gen Shankar also said it's one of the most volatile times in the last 80 years. I was reminded of another year, which I think a lot of us have missed out. The most significant year in Asia, at least, West Asia, South Asia, Indian subcontinent, since 1947, which is independence of India. And it is 1979. And I'll tell you why. Every problem that we're seeing today can be traced back to that one year, 1979. And three very big things happened over there in that year. The year began with the Iranian Revolution, where you have the Shah of Iran who was dethroned, and Ayatollah Khomeini came in and he proclaimed the Shia, republic, and they would eventually grab this entire space, mind space and physical space of the Shias in West Asia. That triggered off anxiety in Saudi Arabia, which sees itself as the custodian of the Sunni faith. And you had in Saudi Arabia the siege of Makkah, where you had radicals take over the
Al-Aqsa Mosque.
The mosque, the siege of the mosque, and the humiliating prospect of Saudi Arabia having to call for foreign assistance, French commandos to storm the Makkah and kill the Joayman al-Utaibi and his other band of fanatics. That was the second one. And just when you thought that two was enough for a year, you had a third tectonic event in December 25, 1979, the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. These three things in just 12 months have kind of reshaped the entire politics of the world, especially of West Asia and the Indian subcontinent. Everything we're seeing you can trace it back to there. Pakistan's nuclear weapons program, the Mujahideen, later the Taliban, all of that. And that's that 1 year. So I want to come to 1979 to 2025, where, of course, in the 70s, the Saudis funded Pakistan's nuclear weapons program, Zia first, Musharraf later. And you have someone like Prince MBS saying very openly, if we are ever threatened by an Iranian bomb, we'll just go and buy it from the Pakistanis. He actually said that in interviews. We'll buy it from the Pakistanis. But the point is, General Shankar, Pakistan itself is under pressure of the Chinese and the United States. Will they deliver on their Saudi promise?
That's the million-dollar question, and I don't think they can.
Okay.
I don't think they can. I don't think they can deliver either conventionally or through nuclear. See, conventionally, like you said, one brigade has been there for so long. What has it done? It has done nothing.
Right.
It has done nothing.
Force. It's a
whatever.
protection.
Yeah, it has done nothing. Now let's look at the nuclear angle. What are the nuclear threats to Saudi Arabia? Iran and Israel. Can Pakistan do anything to Israel?
Well, they have the missile. They have the Shaheen 3.
We'll come to that. Yeah, we'll come to that. Look, it's just not having a missile. You need the infrastructure behind that to go and hit someone with a nuclear weapon. Right. It's not so easy. And will they hit Iran next door and risk a lifelong problem with them? I don't think so. Or third, will they shift a missile to Saudi Arabia to operate? Wherever they go with this little missile of theirs, they can't operate it. The cost for Pakistan will be too high. One. Number two, look, if they threaten Israel, they are first and foremost putting a target on themselves, because Israel will do everything preemptive. That's what Israel has done so far. The first thing, they are exposing their own nuclear setup to Israel.
Right.
Okay. And Israel is far more capable in executing such operations. We've seen it. It's not only they've acted against Syria, they've acted against Lebanon, they've acted against Gaza.
Wherever there's a threat to their things. They've attacked 6 countries in the last 2 years in their national.
And I'm looking at a 7th country called Pakistan. I know, I'm not joking. Look, they've put themselves. And this threat won't come from the top. They will come from inside Pakistan. They will penetrate Pakistan, because Pakistan people will sell Pakistan. Pakistanis will sell Pakistan. You don't need anyone else to do it. So you will see this problem only growing bigger and bigger, and Pakistan has bought it, as far as I'm concerned. from Israel. There are going to be major problems. And by doing all this, let me explain this Pakistan bit a little more. They're getting money. They'll get money after all. It's all rent and nuke type, no? So they'll get
Right.
money. What will they do with that money? You look at the Chinese press. You look at the Mandarin press. They're gaga. They're very happy. Why? Now we'll sell weapons to Pakistan, and and those weapons will go into Saudi Arabia, or influence into Saudi Arabia will increase. This is their
Right.
way they're thinking.
This is what the Chinese are thinking.
Yeah, this is the way Chinese are thinking. So, okay, the other way of thinking is the US. This whole story could have been triggered by the US, on the quiet.
Right.
Saudi pay Pakistan, Pakistan pays US, and they get weapons. Either way, you're going to see a tussle between China and US. So who will get squeezed in between? Pakistan. If Pakistan buys weapons from China, it'll get squeezed by US. If it buys weapons from US, it'll get squeezed by China. That's a double squeeze, which is on. It's on. It'll be on. The next thing is that, look, now that this whole story has started, they will get weapons. Let's be very clear. But that's going to take 5, 6, 7 years. They will get capability. And in the meantime, all these generals will keep getting rich. Okay.
Right.
But the terrorists will do something. They will start shooting off. Now, those chaps are uncontrolled. Now, if they are uncontrolled, they are likely to do something. Where will they do this something against India? So, in case India reacts, and India should react, India should be prepared for this. After all, Op Sindoor is still on. So, if they get a tap on the beak, then where does it leave Pakistan? This whole thing might get aborted before it starts. Remember, Pakistan at this point of time is vulnerable. So far, they have not been able to put Rahim Yar Khan base on track. They have not been able to, replace all those air defense systems which have been knocked off. Okay, and they, you know what all happened in Noor Khan Air Base and all that.
Yes.
So this is not going to be in a hurry. Okay,
Right.
so Pakistan has got itself into a knot. Now we don't know whether it's going to be conventional or unconventional. Already they've started backtracking and flipping. So they've got, notwithstanding the hype and the hoopla saying, oh, we're going to be the new big player. That's why I said there's a pigeon amongst the cats, and that pigeon is Pakistan. Okay, so that's that part of the story. We should be very clear as to how to deal with Pakistan. I think it's time for us to start talking of an operational link up with Israel. So far, our link with Israel was strategic. Now we should start looking at it operationally. And the moment you do this operational setup, things will start, falling in place automatically. We also need to be understanding, and this is a very important thing, that we are dealing with this field marshal who's got a one-point agenda: how to get against India, and he will do anything for it. He's going to Saudi Arabia is not news. After all, he became a Hafiz. Islamic studies. Where did he do it? In Saudi Arabia. So he's got deep links there. He's peddling his story with Saudi Arabia. He's already peddled his story with USA. And he is facilitating USA to enter this area into Central Asia against China. So he's already playing one against the other. He's also been to China, and he must be peddling them to, I'll give you a way into, the Middle East. Because virtually today, China has been kicked out of Middle East.
Yes.
Right? It's got no say. So he'll say, I will give you a route back into Middle East. And in case he's holding the Chinese to ransom with the CPEC. So he's playing a multiple game. We have to understand. After all, he's again going back to meet Trump. I don't know how Trump will meet him now. He's going with Shahbaz Sharif. He will be there. Whether they'll have lunch together again or not is to be seen. And this is going to happen in a few days. So we need to be very focused on these 2-3 things. This fellow is up to something, and his something is not short term, it's long term. So how do you defang that as an issue? And how do you deal with a short term threat which will come out of these jihadis? After all, you heard that Ilyas Kashmiri, whoever the joker was, ranting and raving about everything just about 2 days back, right? That the complicity of the Pakistani establishment and the terrorists came out in his speech, and very, So there are two, three layers of problems which we have to start facing very squarely.
Right.
I look at it this way from a security perspective, and what we have to do, we have to get our P's and Q's right so that we are responsive to whatever Pakistan tries. I would put China in a slightly lower pedestal today in terms of threat because
Right.
China has its own issues. We can discuss that separately. So this is my take. How we handle it, we can discuss a little later.
Absolutely. No, this is fascinating. You've given us so much to unpack here, Jan Shankar. And that one line jumped out at me that Pakistan is actually the pigeon among cats.
Cats.
The fact is that it's made all these deals with all these people, with all the cats, and it's very, soon that those cats will come for their, pound of flesh. And then the pigeon is going to be in trouble. But while the pigeon is playing it, and I think, Advaita, why General Shankar is calling Pakistan the pigeon is that he believes that, and there's a lot of research into what he says, the fact that Pakistan's nuclear bluff was called out during Op Sindoor. And in that one bombing, and this is for the benefit of our viewers, General Shankar has analyzed it. I shall put it out once again. What he said was that bombing that we did on the 10th of May literally called out Pakistan's bluff because in the span of 30 minutes, we paralyzed both their nuclear vectors, which is your aircraft-launched bombs, because your aircraft couldn't take off from your frontline air bases, where all your special weapon storage sites are. And because your aircraft couldn't take off, the Pakistan aircraft, fighter jets, your TELs, which is your trucks with the nuclear missiles, they could not move out because these two rely on, the TELs are protected by the fighter components, and both were paralyzed. And that's the reason that Pakistan dialed the United States, right? Because they feared that there would be a bigger wave of attacks that India would, and we would have unleashed a bigger wave, and that there's no question about it. I think this government is kind of very, very focused on that. But Advaita, this is something that I have maintained in all my TV commentaries and my writings, that after 1998, what we saw with Sindoor in 2025, I think it's one of the biggest quantum shifts in Indian politics, where in 1998 you had Prime Minister Vajpayee, who tested weapons despite global pressure. The Americans, he knew the Americans would come down like a ton of bricks on us, and which they did with sanctions and all that. But when it came to Pakistan, he kind of developed, let's say, cold feet, right? General Shankar's colleagues, General Shankar himself, they were all part of Parakram, where he didn't cross the line with Pakistan because he was worried about the nuclear blackmail that they had, successfully put out. But in 2025, I think Prime Minister Modi has shown that nuclear blackmail is not going to work with him, right? Now, looking at what General Shankar just said, the fact is that we have to be more wary of Pakistan and its 3D chess moves, what they're doing, very, very quickly, moving here, moving there, selling to the US, selling to Saudi. What do you think the government should be doing right now?
I really don't think Pakistan is playing 3D chessboard. I'm going to reiterate what I said. I think they're open for business. Okay. Right. If tomorrow India says, yes, we open our borders, let's do business, they'll trying to embrace Modi also. So it's not like, they're a country that's on the verge of bankruptcy. The only thing it really has is its nuclear weapons. And, right. I don't want to get into conspiracy theorist territory, but are they really their nuclear weapons, or are they somebody else's assets in that Noor Khan base, which were hit by India and which has maybe rattled the country whose assets they probably were, and a country that has very good relationships with Saudi as well as Pakistan, and could probably be putting both of them together, and has an increasingly restive population, domestic population, that is saying that we don't want to engage in any wars outside of our borders. We don't want to be so involved. And that's the base. That's Trump's base. I may as well name the country. That's Trump's base. And they're saying we don't want to get into any wars anywhere in the world. We don't care. It's America first. So,
Right.
this is not what we need to do. So Trump, domestic politics wise, cannot really get too involved in other people's issues. Now, if you have someone like a good friend like a Saudi Arabia, also that you have more eyes on the deck, because
Right.
that's what you need with a country like Pakistan. And then with a country like India under Modi, which is saying that we're going to go for you and we're going to go for you hard. So
Right.
that is I think there's element of all eyes on deck going on here as well. So, I think Pakistan has proved itself to be very unreliable as a partner, very untrustworthy as a partner. I think anyone who ventures into any relationship with them it is from a purely transactional basis and a basis driven by self-interest, not some great respect for them as a valuable partner. I mean, 2 years ago they were China's best friends. Now Munir is flying to America literally every month. So
Right.
these are all indications. I think what we're looking at essentially is Pakistan, of course, open for business, covering its bases with India, wants to say that, look, Saudi is going to think that it's a war, an attack on them if you attack us. They need to do that. They need to posture that way, because you're right, Operation Sindoor did call out their bluff, that they are not able to stand up to Indian firepower when we decide to use it. So they need it. And I really think this is more to do with, this whole China aspect, Iran aspect, than us necessarily. Pakistan may want to project it like it's them getting on strong ground because of us or to counterbalance us. But really, they're just being used, and they don't mind being used. And they will be used till it's useful to whichever side is using them, and then it'll be over. We've seen this before.
Right. Well, Shankar, we've seen this before, and history has a way of rhyming, as they say. But these kind of scenarios are almost unprecedented. I mean, when did we think that we would actually be talking of an India-Israel strategic alliance to counter Pakistan's nuclear blackmail, nuclear threats? You see that actually happening. This is a lot of let's say Pulp Fiction, a joint India-Israel mission to knock out Pakistan's nukes, as was being discussed in the past. And also this point that Advaita raised, that there was a third country's nuclear weapons in Pakistan's territory. Do you believe that?
Look, I mean, whether it's a third country's weapons in Pakistan territory or not, I mean, that's one part of the story. The way I look at it very simplistically, Pakistan has nukes on its territory, whether it's their own or others, I couldn't care a damn.
Right.
And they have missiles, and this missile proliferation has been done from North Korea and China.
Right.
And they've threatened me with it. So what do? I obliterate it. As simple as that. I mean, you don't have to, whether USA likes it or not, we have to do it. Okay. Same thing. Israel has been talking of this for a long time. So if Israel and India have a common aim in this, so isn't it logical that you start thinking of doing something? And you don't have to, hit them from top, all that. You buy a few Pakistanis off, and you penetrate them and finish them off. There are many ways of doing it. I don't have to, these are just pointers. We don't have to talk too much about it. But Pakistan, like I said, is a cat amongst pigeons now. You also have to understand.
Pigeon among
there's
cats.
A big, pigeon amongst cats. Yes. Yeah, there's a dead pigeon, right? Now, Pakistan has a cat within. You look at the cats, the three cats of Pakistan. One is Balochistan. Second is Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And third is their water, whether it's either in flood or drought. So there is, you see, I've always felt that the biggest werewolf which will eat up Pakistan is water. Water or lack of it. India has got, there's a fundamental problem. Just think, 60% of Pakistan lives on agriculture.
Right.
And that agriculture is always under flood or drought.
Yes.
Where is this country going to go? It doesn't have any capability. Because it's put all its eggs in the nuclear basket, it doesn't have capability to sort out itself. If that doesn't happen, there is a lot of resentment from within. So
Right.
actually, and of course, you'll see Balochistan, they've lost control. They're just about hanging on to Quetta. One of these days, there's going to be a flag coming up, a BLA flag coming up in Quetta. Also, there is this, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is in a bad shape. This year alone, in the first 9 months, the number of casualties they've had
Right.
of uniformed people is almost touching the all-time high in their entire history. There are 3 more months left. So they are not in control of their own situation. What this Munir fellow is doing is only trying to peddle his nuclear stuff, and all that, get some money, do something, survive, make money. Really speaking, we have to look at Pakistan in 2 frames or 2 levels. One is the military establishment and toxic Pakistan at the top, and the other is the Pakistan which is under complete neglect. People say Pakistan will not revolt against the army, but will it happen that way or not? We don't know. It's a matter of a few more events happening, and Pakistan will be in its internal turmoil. Pakistan is always trying to externalize the situation. Right. Even now, it's trying to externalize the situation by trying to speak to Taliban and speaking to USA so that USA can get back into Bagram, and then they have to rely back on Pakistan. All that the recent thing about Chabahar, what Trump is doing, they've got a background. If you link it up, it's all linked to Bagram. And they're trying to again get back into US good books. So Pakistan is playing a game of survival at one level, being offensive at the other level, and third, they're not capable of doing what they have to do for themselves. So I'll be interested to see what happens to Pakistan in this whole story. Once this euphoria dies, where Pakistan is going to head, well, they're very expert at it. That's a different story. I reiterate, the immediate danger I see is this mismatch between the development of capability and this jihadis taking off. This jihadis taking off is the first thing which can happen. And as far as I'm concerned, if it happens, we should now not finish off just 11 of their airfields. We should finish off all their airfields. And we should encourage, Israelis before that to finish off all their nukes. I mean, we have to. You think I'm being belligerent about it? No, we need to do it in a cold, calculated manner.
Practical. You have to be practical about it.
You have to be very practical. You have to be very thinking. You have to be forward-looking and proactive about this whole affair.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Advaita, be practical about Pakistan's nuclear weapons.
I'm very practical. Pakistan, I reiterate, is open for business. Now, what's the latest deal that you're going to get there? Deal or no deal? Balochistan has. Now there's going to be an open bidding amongst the global nations to bid for the rare earth reserves in Balochistan, and Pakistan has already put it out into the global world. Who's obsessed with rare earth? Who keeps mentioning rare earth? The one and only. And so, this is, I mean, I wish the Pakistani people would wake up to what the dear general is doing to them. And I think, am I still there? Sorry. From what is above the ground to what is below the ground. Yeah. So they're basically being sold completely. They're not popular. They don't get along with their neighbors. They don't get along with Iran. They don't get along with India. They don't get along with Afghanistan. They're surrounded by 3 sides. China is becoming increasingly suspicious of them. So who are their friends in their own neighborhood? Literally nobody. So Pakistan has a lot of reasons to kind of, be out there in the world selling its wares, because it needs it on so many multiple levels, and they know that they have such low credibility when the Americans themselves, and that too, a Democrat like Hillary Clinton says, if you raise snakes in your back garden, don't expect them to not come around and bite you. So, when on public platforms, when they have been spoken of this way, when China is now getting a dose of their double dealing and their double game playing, they don't have a lot of credibility. All they can offer is transaction. And guess who loves transaction? Again, Trump. Trump is not an emotional guy. Trump is not looking to be best friends with Pakistan and plant the seeds of civilizational bonds and all of that. No. Trump is saying, what can I get out of you? Show me
Yeah.
your wares. I'll
That's
decide if
right.
it's worth it, and that's where I come in. And this is very transactional. It's going to last as long as it needs to last. And yes, Munir has an advantage with the Saudi deal, because then to his increasingly radical population, he can say that the Arabs and Saudi Arabia, the home of Islam, the cradle of Islam, is bonding with us, is getting closer to us.
Right.
So that's the
Right.
only thing he can sell to them in terms of keeping the populace or the public happy, and their eyes away from the kind of looting that is going on under their nose.
No, absolutely. In fact, Advaita, when you were talking about the snakes in the backyard thing, I was reminded of what Musharraf was doing to those snakes. He was selling those snakes to the United States. And this is something that he admitted in his autobiography, where he said that, why was Pakistan not getting enough money for the terrorists that it was selling to the United States? Its own people, by the way. They were selling, all these terrorists who had bounties, US multi-million-dollar bounties. They were selling them to the United States and claiming the bounties for those things, like a bounty hunter kind of thing from the spaghetti westerns of the 1960s. But I thought we have a lot of interesting questions here.
Just quick thing. I think the Balochistan thing, the rare earths, is strategic also, because the moment you have the Americans buy into the rare earths, they're going to put their forces, they're going to put their arms out there. So this is also meant to target like the BLA and cut them to size, because they have been wholly unsuccessful in being able to take them on.
But absolutely, and that kind of having foreign troops, having American troops and bases on Pakistan soil kind of protects them to some extent from retaliation from India as well. Though I'm not sure that would be very big on.
I don't think Americans will put their boots on ground. And
Right.
Trump is not the kind who will put boots on ground. One shouldn't be this thing. He'll use Pakistanis.
He'll use
Pakistanis.
If they get into rare earth exploration there to protect their assets, they'll do it.
No. Look, that rare earth is still, very early stages of life. A lot of things have to go by, before it happens. And, that rare earth business, now that you have spoken of it, let me put it. There are many bidders. One of the bidders is China.
Right.
So don't think this bid is going to go through that one way. It will go only to Trump. China will take its pound of flesh from Pakistan. So, that's why I said Pakistan is now a pigeon amongst cats. So if it swings towards, Trump, the Chinese will get after them. If it swings towards Chinese, the Trump will get after them. And in any case, the Saudis also will demand their pound of flesh. You think they are not interested in rare earths? Saudis will also say, we want our rare earths. And the Saudis, we also have to understand the Saudi angle in this whole deal. The Saudis and the House of Saud is fighting for its own survival. Right? They are now worried about, USA. That USA will not help them when the time comes. They are also very clear that Pakistan won't help them. But the new angle they'll get in is China. After all, please remember, MBS has started talking openly with China. He's doing UN deals with them.
Right.
Okay. So he doesn't want China to get away. And he's playing China against USA through Pakistan. And that's the way he can keep Israel off his back. Also, amongst all this, please understand that Saudi Arabia is doing a deal with you, IMEC, Europe. He's got his own diversification. It's just not, what's the value of Saudis to anyone? Oil, channels. Europe wants Saudi Arabia. So he is playing his game. And Pakistan is a big player in this whole game. We must start looking at step out. And we need to also use the Saudi connection. After all, if you look at the statements which have come out from India, India said, look, we know this whole story from before. This is formalizing a long-standing arrangement and all that. And that's what the first statement came out. The second statement which came out yesterday is we already started talking to Saudis. To what extent will Pakistan be allowed? Remember, this is actually, in a way, that's why I said Pakistan has now become the, pigeon among the cats. One of the cats is India. You're going to go to Saudis and tell them, look, do you want IMEC and all your investments in India, or you want Pakistan?
Right.
And that talk must be already on. And for all you know, Saudis would have spoken to India and USA before doing this.
Right.
Don't leave it. Look, the stakes are too much for Saudis also.
Yeah.
They have to diversify away from oil. That's what they're trying to do. Unless this IMEC goes through, and it goes through Haifa, and eventually you'll see the year 2 where you're talking of rare earths in Balochistan and all. That might not come through, because that might not come through in Trump's term. If it doesn't come through in Trump's term, end of story.
Right.
Right? So, but for Saudis, this IMEC going through is important. And for that, they have to make good with Israel, because Haifa is the port onto Piraeus. The EU is coming strong. And EU is now not hands off USA. The fact that EU is coming to India to do a deal, and they want that FTA to be done by, in the next 1-2 months, and by January they want an India-EU summit, is very significant. It actually has opened up the global game. Look, this is something which I've spoken earlier. I'll reiterate it here. Which are the 4 main economic blocks in the world today? The economic powers, as I term them. One is, of course, USA. The second is EU. EU as a whole equals USA. Third is China. The fourth is India. And the fifth is Japan.
Right.
These are the 5 big economic powers. Japan is virtually neutral. It doesn't know which way to play. EU and India get together. China and USA are left out of the global economic game. And that's what is happening. And that is what, if you see the European Council talks, I'm not talking about Ursula von der Leyen, because she's from the European Commission. The EU Council is the main council. Alberto Costa, he's had a talk with Prime Minister Modi already. And they are very keen that this IMEC goes through. And IMEC will go through. And thanks to France needs it, Italy needs it, Germany needs it. Right? These are the big economies. So, and Saudi Arabia is part of that. And you think Saudi Arabia will miss out on that for Pakistan? It will not. So there are a lot of constraints which are put on Pakistan. And there's no free run for minerals in Pakistan. I mean, the minerals are just there. They've been there for many years. The talk is about Rikodik and Sandak, right? Now, Sandak is the new mine. Rikodik is the old one. They're not making profit out of that. That's with the Chinese.
Right.
So things are not simple. And in this whole story of Rikodik, Sandak and all, the Canadians also come in. So there are huge angles in this. So I don't think Trump is in any position to start putting troops here.
Right, absolutely. No, but that's very interesting what you said. Wheels within wheels, and there's so much going on right now. It's very hard for us to even comprehend. But, I think we just open it up to questions, Shankar. There are lots of questions. The first one, of course, is...
Before you take on these questions, I want to put across one thing. I'm very glad that people from Pakistan, there are 2 or 3 guys from Pakistan coming and trolling us. I would, don't remove them, because they are our advertisement. I must thank every chap from Pakistan who's seeing this show. You must see it, and you must know what kind of fools you are being made of by Mr. Hafiz, Field Marshal Hafiz. Okay,
Marshal Hafiz.
And don't be under any wrong thing that you guys are going to give, security guarantee to Middle East kingdoms and all that. You are just gatekeepers. Paid gatekeepers, or security guards. Or in modern terms, you are security executives. But that's about all. So this is my message to Pakistanis. Now we can take on questions.
Shruti Qatari, thank you. Sandeep sir, Advaita ma'am, you both are awesome. Of course, we know that, Advaita. General sir is a legend. Yes, we know that as well. Why did Saudi Arabia not approach China, superpower China, for the nuclear umbrella, I'm guessing, assuming they wanted a hedge against the United States? Jan Shankar, why didn't Saudi...
They can't approach China directly, because, China is actually a weak power. What has come out in the Iran-Israel war? China had a base in Djibouti. They had all the naval power there, but yet they didn't do anything. So the confidence of China being able to do anything directly has gone. And the stakes are
Yes.
too high for MBS to go to China and Xi Jinping and say, come and deploy your nukes here.
Right.
So the
Right.
only option they have is Pakistan, who they have an equation for so long. So this is just an, extension of that equation. That's about all. So they could not
Right.
go for, but getting China through Pakistan is an option they've opened themselves up to.
Right, absolutely. Next question from Vijay, who says that now the Arab countries, he says basically the Arab countries will blockade India if India has a war against Pakistan. That's always been the fear, hasn't it? With US and China also against India, Russia seems to be the only friend India has. Advaita, you want to take that? The fact that Saudi Arabia could weigh in on the side of Pakistan in case there's a war between India and Pakistan.
I mean, it is implicit in the deal that they've signed. That kind of overarching security and defense partnership. So it is quite likely, no doubt about that. I think India will need to diversify its oil supplies, which we've already done. So,
Right.
I mean, these things, even if it happens this way, these are all temporary hiccups. They're not necessarily going to create much of an issue. Remember, I mean, Saudi Arabia and Israel were going to normalize. They were going to recognize, Saudis were going to recognize Israel till October 7th happened. And then what all followed, and then it just wasn't possible for Saudi Arabia to recognize Israel. So Saudi foreign policy is also very pragmatic.
Right.
It is very open to all kinds of partnerships. So while this defense partnerships is very overarching in its scope, I think the Saudis are also, and the House of Saud in particular, are also looking at alternatives when the oil runs out, which it is going to.
Yeah.
And that's been a huge motivator for MBS. He's not going to mess it up because of some possible war with Iran, or he knows India is never going to attack Saudi. It's basically
Right.
about Iran. So it's just a deterrent for Iran. That's about
right.
it.
So it's basically something that's in the short term that Saudi Arabia is trying to do. But here's Surendra Barsode, who's wants to know: will the agreement lead to Pak-Iran relations going sour? Will Iran enforce the guarantee of a few $1 billion for Pakistan messing up with the Iran-Pak-India pipeline? I thought that was history now. The Iran-Pak pipeline was an old project, but Pak-Iran relations in the light of the Saudi-Pak defense arrangement, General Shankar?
Yeah. Look, that's why I said another cat which is ready for the Pakistani pigeon is Iran.
Iran. Right.
See, look, if there's a live problem which Pakistan has to face, what will happen? Tomorrow, Saudi, because of all this, some attack will take place in Saudi from Yemen. And they'll say, "Acha, abhi attack ho gaya, chalo bhai, go against Yemen." When they go against Yemen, whom are they going against? They're going against Iran. So there are problems. Pakistan is I pity the way Pakistanis have got. You see, देखो, Bikari hai. What else can a Bikari do? He'll go for arms to someone. कि भैया पैसे दे दो, book दे, कुछ तो दे दो.
Right.
So वो दे रहा है. Saudi says, okay, I'll give you money, but do my bidding.
Yeah.
See, you have to, if you view it simplistically, that's it. Yeah, please.
Yeah.
And there was another Crescent Alliance building, remember? The non-Arab Muslim states with Erdogan as the sort of head of that.
वो भी है Turkey वाले.
So Pakistan was getting really pally with Turkey, Malaysia, and now suddenly, you're off to Saudi. So this is really a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
But
Actually, the point she's making is very important, which we missed out. You see, Pakistan has entered the West Asian politics or the Middle East politics, call what you want. That's dicey between, Turkey, Saudis, Iran, that triangle will squeeze. Then you are getting involved with Israel. Then you're getting with all the movements in Syria, Qatar, and all this. So you are into, you've gone into something which you really don't know how to handle.
you've
And
bitten
they
off
hate
more than you
Pakistan.
can chew, as they say. Yeah.
And they hate Pakistan. All of these chaps hate Pakistan.
Right.
Okay, so it's going to bite them.
Yes. It's going to bite them indeed. And
The
there's one question.
irony is that the only country that would kind of look at Pakistan with some affection based on a shared history and legacy and, that sort of bond is India. Other than that,
Right.
the rest of the world really doesn't view them as anything more than what use they can be of them to them.
Yes, absolutely. Rohan, this question is, of course, being answered. I mean, during the discussion. Yes, this is the Saudi-Pak alliance is a result of the mercurial United States and the fact that they couldn't be counted on, because if Qatar, a US ally, would be hammered by Israel and the US did nothing, that's the reason that the Saudis actually went to the Pakistanis.
And Sandeep, it's not only that the US did nothing. Remember, this is the United States' largest base. Something like 30,000 troops there. And how could they not even know that an attack was coming? I mean, that's interesting. Someone needs to ask, did they not know or did they not say? So it's great, actually.
No, but Gen Shankar, there is another pigeon among cats, and that is Qatar. I mean, this is the only country to have been bombed by both Iran and Israel in the span of about 3 months.
Look, you have to be very clear about Qatar. Qatar is a very smart player.
Yeah.
He's got money. He has got the biggest gas fields in the world.
Yeah.
And he's got a churi which no one else has. And that churi is called Al Jazeera.
Al Jazeera, yes.
Right? He is the media. See, if you actually study Qatar, Qatar has survived due to Al Jazeera. Qatar has survived playing Turkey, Iran, and Saudi off. Because all these three people at some point of time wanted a piece of the Qatar cake. Qatar has survived by keeping the US Central Command in the Al Udeid base within Qatar. Qatar has survived by keeping a Turkish contingent in Doha. I hope you know. There are 1,000 soldiers, Turkish soldiers in Doha. And he's also put his fingers in the Muslim Brotherhood, and all gangs, all radical movements in this area are funded by Qatar. Right? And so Qatar has got a lot of assets with him. Qatar has got LNG. Right? And it places its own, and it doesn't matter a few people getting bombed. And he doesn't mind, even Hamas chaps getting bombed.
Right.
If in all this, have you seen Qatar even demonstrating or remonstrating against Israel? We have all discussed, no? Has Qatar come out as the statement and said that, no, they shouldn't have bombed and all that? They're not.
Right.
So Qatar is a deep player. I mean, to say that, Qatar is one of the cats.
Qatar is one of the cats and not the pigeons. That's
In fact, I put it this way. I did a video on this. Qatar is the Middle East Switzerland. See, in the good old days, everyone used to go to Switzerland to do banking. Put their money, including the Nazis, put their gold in Switzerland. Qatar is something like that. Qatar has got its hands in everyone's pockets.
Right.
And everyone has invested into Qatar. See, look at our equation with Qatar, India, Qatar. Because we are dependent on them for LNG, NAFTA, everything. Okay? So you have good equations with them. Now they're investing with you. You have good equations with them. Remember the 7 naval officers who were supposed to be executed and all that? All that is what? With Qatar. So Qatar is a strange animal. You have to understand that when you deal with Qatar, it's the Switzerland of the Middle East.
Switzerland of the Middle East, in fact. And this is a question from Vijay. Pakistan has applied to be a member of BRICS. Advaita, you want to take this? What if Pakistan joins BRICS? Because Saudi is already there, China is there, Iran as well. What does that mean for India?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not too familiar with the BRICS situation, what India's declared position has been on Pakistan joining in. Maybe General can take this question because I'm not that familiar.
No, this won't happen because we have already once ensured that we don't allow Pakistan in. And the founding members of BRICS, that is, Brazil, Russia, China, and India, and South Africa. we have some kind of a veto. Not a full veto, but we have a say. As a founding member of BRICS and a very important member of BRICS, we have a say, and we've kept Pakistan out.
Yeah.
And we've kept, we've admitted a lot of other countries in lieu of Pakistan at China's
Right.
behest. So I don't like Algeria and Ethiopia and all. We said, okay, China wanted those in. We said we'll allow them in, not Pakistan.
Right.
And if we have to allow Pakistan, all we have to tell BRICS is sorry, we're not here.
Right.
And China will backtrack. So out of BRICS, there's no way this can, Pakistan can enter BRICS. We have too much of a say in BRICS. That's the fundamental thing. And China and Russia, and more importantly, Russia will not allow you to go out of BRICS. If you go out of BRICS, BRICS collapses, and Russia collapses on that front. So I don't think that's feasible. I'd like one question to be taken by Thought Provocator. It's in blue. It's in a start question. Just take that. It's a very nice comment. Yeah.
Okay.
Blue. It's a start question.
It's a start.
It's actually a comment.
It's a comment from Thought Provocator. Yes.
Thought Provocator.
Is
yeah, he says it is Pakistan's nuclear
and not the nuclear umbrella.
No, umbrella. Yeah, that's what he says. Okay. So I think that's a very important thing, which is this thing. Yeah, now you can go ahead with.
Yeah. So it's the Katora which becomes an umbrella or vice versa. So I mean, the one big question that a lot of our viewers seem to be asking is we are discussing HBs, but there's the H1B question that everyone wants to know, that Trump has just signed an executive order for the $100,000 for a H1B visa. I mean, that's very, very significant. Pramod Sinha's question. Trump signed an order to increase the H1B fees to $100,000 per year. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Trump turning the screws on India?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Advaita, you can take it on. Otherwise, I'll answer it.
No, I don't think so at all. I agree with General. I mean, think about it. If you had a thriving industry in India and people from abroad came in and took those jobs, say Bangladeshis, for example. I mean, that's already happening, by the way. But if it was happening in an organized fashion and it was skilled jobs, and there were people coming in and taking those jobs from your people, how would you react to it? So I think you have to look at it from the Americans' perspective, and the fact that these companies are getting so-called cheaper labor from abroad, because when they hire Americans, there's certain pay scales, there's certain rights, guarantees. They're citizens. Americans are very aggressive on their amendments, First Amendment, Fifth Amendment, all of those things. So there are a lot of factors, and of course skill sets, which make for companies inclined to hire from outside. And I wouldn't just say India, but from all over the world. And Trump has promised this to the American people. It was one of his promises that we're going to come down hard on this, and we're going to make sure that companies hire Americans and jobs stay in America. And this is very well timed for the midterm elections. So that section of the population who are looking for jobs will get those jobs. Remember what's happening in America right now, which has not happened in the decades that preceded, is that young people in America today, because of the debt trap they're in, cannot even afford to buy a house. So they are actually entering into a future and a lifestyle which is completely unfamiliar to them. Because unlike us, where we had the Prime Minister promise everyone a home and things like that, a home in America was a very normal, natural thing. But for the first time, they have a generation entering into the workforce who can realistically never be able to own their own home, which is very shocking for them. So we have to look at these things from the perspective, if we are people who put India first and want to take decisions, and our government to take decisions that puts India first, then you have to look at what the Americans are doing and why they're thinking this way. It's not racism or any of those things people are saying. It's basically them looking out for themselves.
Yeah, can I put in?
Yes, General Shankar.
This actually affects India a lot.
Right.
what Trump is doing is for his elections, like what Advaita is saying. There's no doubt about it. He's trying to tell everyone, if he's going to cut down on H-1B visas, and anyone who's to, this will force all American companies to hire locals.
Right.
All that is fine. But there's a big caveat to this whole story. The caveat is, who can afford $100,000? $100,000 means that if tomorrow a company, let's say Microsoft, for example, or Google, let's take Google. Google hires an Indian, say at a pay scale of $100,000, which is their entry fees.
Right.
They have to give that another $100,000 for his H-1B visa. That means that effectively he is going to be hired at $200,000.
Right.
Okay. Now and in lieu, it should force Google to hire a local. If that could happen, Google would have done it in the first place.
Right.
It doesn't happen. That is why he's he's hiring an Indian. That's the fundamental. That's right. So what will happen now? So Google will tell, okay, you don't work in India, don't work in USA. You work in India, I'll set up an office in India. It'll actually offshore.
Right.
And all these big companies, Microsoft, Google and all, they've already opened up global capability centers in India. 1,900 of them are there in India. So this will only offshore jobs. It will not create jobs. Because these jobs, they can't fill. They don't have people to fill.
Right.
If they had people to fill, it's fine. And incidentally, the companies there are not hiring Indians at a lower rate.
Right.
They might hire an Indian at the lower rate initially. But the moment this Indian goes there and spends a year there, he knows what's his worth. He'll jump. He jumps, which is the normal case if you study this whole market. So he is not being hired cheaper than the local American.
Right.
In fact, I will put it the other way around. The American is costly. He demands more and delivers less. So he is not being hired. So what will happen is all these fellows will say, okay, we'll reduce the number of jobs or openings in USA. We'll open it in Hyderabad or Bangalore or wherever their global capability centers are. So I think this is actually what Trump is doing, is shooting himself in his foot. Right? And people will come back. I look at it positively. A lot of people might say, oh, no, you will not get H-1B visas, all that, and our people will not go there. And a lot of our techies who are there will have questions. Oh, should we come back to India? Damn good, yeah, come back to India. Open up your thing and start. You'll struggle initially. Okay? But you'll get up and it'll do good to India. Hame kya hai, yaar? And if Microsoft wants to open up office here and hire these chaps, even at 70% of the pay, or even 50% of the pay what they're going to get here, it trumps to India. So actually the way I look at it, one way of looking at it is our chaps won't get an entry into USA. The other way of entering into it is this is the opportunity, give Microsoft, Google, all these people opportunities to expand their operations in India and get your own talent back. Once you get your own talent back into India and they have other opportunities, this talent will expand. The opportunities will expand horizontally. All your dreams of AI and all that will now start coming true. We must thank Trump for it. In fact, I would say make it $200,000.
There'll be a reverse brain drain, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it will happen.
Yeah.
It will happen.
Great. So, fascinating discussion on a Saturday morning. We began with hydrogen bombs and we ended up with HBs of a different kind, H-1B visas, more, pressing concerns to India, of course, the neighborhood also, the Saudi-Pak alliance as we discussed. But there's so much going on in the world today. And this is one more reason for all of you out there to tune in to our conversations on Saturday mornings, 9 a.m. Every single weekend. We are here to answer your questions, especially with this very fast-changing geopolitics, this T20 of geopolitics that we're witnessing, where there matches being played in hours and not days. Thank you very much, General Shankar, Advaita Kala, for joining us this morning. And see you again, same time, next Saturday, 9 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.